Cheryl, what in the world in Florida is going on with condos? With everything that's going on, how is that impacting loans? Welcome back to Really Mary. Today I'm here with my good friend and cohort, Cheryl Stokes from New American Funding. And Cheryl, you know, I've talked about it on this program in the past, but from an attorney's perspective. What in the world in Florida is going on with condos, and how, with everything that's going on, how is that impacting loans?
Well, there's a lot going on. Yeah. We all remember that we had a collapse in Miami, and that set off a chain of events and regulations for condos, which at the end of the day might be a good thing, but it's incurred a lot of rules. And some of those rules are you must be fully funded in reserves. Well, a lot of condo associations were not, and now they have to have reserves. It also set into place the need for structural review, structural engineering reports, and repair if there are structural findings that are negative.
Yeah.
So what's happening? So the associations have to, one, schedule that review. They have to then determine how they're going to repair the problem if there are structural issues. And they have to report it on a condo questionnaire, which is what our problem is. Right. So if someone's buying a condo, we have to approve the condo and its viability, just like we approve the client. Do they pay their bills? Are they solvent? Are they collecting their reserves? Do they have insurance? And have they had that structural review? So it is required by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that we collect the structural review. And if there is anything in that review that says unsafe or unsound,
those words that engineers like to use,
it must be repaired prior to an approval. So think about it. A condo that was built in the 80s,
right,
that has had salt air on it for 40 years,
right,
might have some things that are structurally unsound. And that makes it hard for condos to get approved.
You know, I can think of a building that's had its challenges, or buildings that have had their challenges here with that. This report she's talking about is a milestone inspection report. So if you Google that, you'll find another YouTube, Really Mary, with Peter Huey, who's an attorney, that we talked about that. There's two phases of that. There's the reserve phase, and then there's the structural phase. But what that does is, because they all have to be done by the end of this year, and if they're not public knowledge because they haven't been approved or anything else, it's very difficult to get a loan in there. You can't, right?
In theory, you can't.
Okay.
Now, there are some what are called non-QM options, which means non-qualifying mortgage.
Okay.
So they do not follow Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Okay.
And they have some programs where you can purchase in a non-warrantable condo.
Okay.
What happens with that? They might be higher in interest rate because it's higher risk.
Sure.
They might have some other minimum credit score standards.
Right.
And they're going to come with some extra closing costs.
Okay.
But there are some alternatives. So if you know it's a building that might have some issues, if you just, as a buyer, beware.
Right.
And as a realtor showing a buyer, have that information in your hand. And then if that's the case, start in the right spot at non-QM instead of starting with a standard file.
You know, that's a great point, because be prepared, I think, is the bottom line with that, because we also know that there are great buildings that may have got a bad rap from an engineer that was a little overzealous in a word, or a thing that says it's structural, but it's not the building, it's some small item in the property, you know, that is causing that word to be flagged.
Right. There are so many nuances with condos. It's not only that structure, but most people don't know that the reserves collected need to be 10% of their operating budget.
Yeah.
Well, if they're collecting 9%, they're unwarrantable. They have to be collecting 10% of their operating budget. Yeah. So little things like that. Another thing that has come up with condos this year has to do with flood insurance. We all like insurance right now, but condos are allowed to have as little as 80% coverage in flood legally as an association. But a buyer has to have 100% coverage for their unit. So what's happening is we're now finding some buyers have to buy flood gap coverage.
Oh, yeah.
Even if they're on the 8th floor, because it's the
Because
whole
the whole
building
building.
that would be affected if it gets flooded.
Yeah.
So again, condos are great.
Right.
They're a great product. They're a good investment, but it's always be aware, be prepared of what's involved in purchasing a condo.
I love that. And, the whole goal is, like we said, we just did a monthly market update for October. So when you're watching this, you can go back to that. There are still in our areas a lot of condos being sold. So, if you're interested in that type of product, talk to your realtor. We'd love to help you. Talk to your lender. Cheryl is great value for any kind of lending product. But, the goal is to know that building. So until next time, I'm Mary Bartos with the Bartos Group of Premier Plus Realty.
I'm Cheryl Stokes with New American Funding.
And we look forward to seeing you here in Paradise. Whether you're buying or selling real estate, we'd love to help.